Welcome back to our series of training videos on the three tools currently available from Veritas Seed Data. Again, back to the My Account page, click on tool number 3, and that will take you to this Corn Hybrid Recommendation Tool. Again, it's more of a performance prediction tool than it is a recommendation tool. It's just one of the many things and items that you need to consider when making hybrid selection or purchase decisions. But it's a fun one. I think it's a pretty important one. Tool number 1, if you remember, is the big database, and you have access to it, and you get to slice and dice the database according to your preferences and your desires and your whims. You create subsets of a much larger database and then summarize performance once you're happy with your subdivisions. Now, in the case of this tool, it's kind of worked backwards. In this situation, I have taken the whole database for a hybrid, and I have teased out and ascertained how it behaves, its nature, if you will, and how it responds to things like latitude and longitude and elevation, things like planting rates and yield levels. Those tend to be some of the primary drivers that move hybrid performance and determine how one performs relative to another. And so at this point, in this tool, you get to enter those things, those combinations of those 5 factors, and play around with it and get a targeted, rifled-in prediction of what will most likely perform best for you. So again, we come back and we enter in bag price, because we always want to consider economics. Same goes for grain price. Now you enter in the 5 categories, the 5 characteristics that we are trying to discern how they affect yield. So planting rate, you can do one of these for several different zones within a field or several different fields, and come up with slightly different recommendations. So planting rates, if you're doing zones or planting rates by field, you can run several different iterations. Say we have a planting rate of 27,000. This particular field we have in mind, pretty consistently we'll do 185. Latitude, you'd probably need to look it up on a map. Maybe you know your lat long, rough lat long for your farm. This tool isn't fine-tuned enough to where you would want to enter in a specific lat and long for a field. A single lat long for your whole farm is good enough, unless you have different farms that are separated by tens of miles that you want to enter in different lat longs for different farms. But let's say that you're living at a latitude of 45 degrees in a longitude of negative, and you don't have to enter in the negative number or the negative sign. It'll automatically pop up there for you. But negative 97. And an elevation here of 1,500 feet. Now this is one you may want to run different iterations for if you have fields that are at different elevations. We can see elevational change fairly significant within a few miles. So this is probably more often will you want to change elevation than you will lat long. Then, of course, we're looking at trying to restrict things by a fairly narrow maturity range. So I will look at 94 to 100-day hybrids. And with that criteria, that should be a fairly unique combination of these 5 factors that is unique to you. And you can go ahead and enter them in and hit calculate, and this will pull up all of the hybrids that are in our database. Because it takes a lot of locations for a hybrid to reveal itself to me. Not every hybrid that is in our larger database is going to show up in this tool. From early to late, from 79-day or 75-day hybrids all the way to 120-day hybrids, we've only got about 400 that show up in this tool, whereas the greater database has like 4,300. So it's 1 out of every 10 do I have enough data to actually get very intelligent as to determine and predict how they're going to behave. So anyway, you come down, and this automatically fills or populates this table once you put in your criteria or your unique combination of factors. And I think it's sorting on relative yield column from highest to lowest. Now you look at this column, and you can say, 212% relative yield. That's unreal. That's unbelievable, and it is. I want to explain this tool and this table and help you to understand it as best you can. What we're doing in predicting performance is we're doing a multivariate or multivariable regression analysis, and we're comparing those 5 things and relating them to yield, how they affect yield. And so for each of the 5, I have got a minimum and a maximum divulged in that data set, that entire data set. This is the range of latitudes that I have available for this hybrid. This is the range of longitudes, where we actually have tested values that fall in between those ranges, elevation, planting rates, and yield level. Now notice this Thunder hybrid. I have 49 locations, and I would say for me to be really confident that I've got good predictive ability with one of my algorithms, that I need to probably have 50 locations. You sort through this tool, and you're going to find some hybrids where I've got between 30 and 40 locations, and I still make it available to you. I do so when it looked to me, just at a fairly quick glance, that the data is fairly stable and fairly predictive. But still, you're going to have values that are out of line like this. And the reason for that is because we're coloring outside the lines with this particular hybrid. Even though I've got 50 locations, not a single one of them was planted at less than 31,400. At 27,000, we're way outside the lines on this particular hybrid. And because of it, whenever you see a red, pinkish coral color, that's supposed to be red, that means that we're outside of the lines, and these values that it's predicting mean nothing. When we're outside of the actual data set and into the land of extrapolation, these algorithms, these predictive models, can get really wonky really fast. And so when you're outside of the lines, I would not give any credence to this value whatsoever. If you notice the one below that, for the same characteristic, planting rate, you see an orange coloration. An orange coloration is an indication that we are not outside the lines, but we're right up against the line. Orange represents anything that's plus or minus 2 standard deviations from the mean. If that doesn't mean anything to you, sometime I'll explain it. But plus or minus 2. And sometimes you will see a yellow coloration. And that's plus or minus 1.75 standard deviations. But just trying to give you a warning that that we're getting close to the edge of what data we have. And when we're beyond the edge, it turns red, and just throw away the result entirely. The other constraints that I would look at, anytime I'm above 120% of location average, I just don't believe it. Anytime I'm below 80% of location average, I don't believe that either. I'm looking for N. I want to have at least 50 locations. And I'm looking for the watchouts when I'm getting close to the edge of the data that I actually have in the database. So I hope that helps you, but this, for the ones that are truly believable, it looks like the best predicted performer, discounting these two, would probably be this DeKalb hybrid, and then next this LG number. Again, we calculate economics. We can project a yield based on the yield level you entered in, and we can calculate a value per unit. So we calculate value per unit in tool number 1. We do it again, different methodology in tool number 3. You can compare the two and get a feel for what these hybrids truly are worth to you, specifically and uniquely, and be armed with that kind of information in negotiating with your seed supplier. So hopefully you find this useful. This one is probably the most powerful tool. It's limited in number because I need lots of locations, but when I have lots of locations, I can learn a lot from this tool. And we had pointed out in the other tools that there are things called derivative reports. That's when I take the data that I save or pull from these tools and I compile it and combine it with other reports and create what I call a derivative report. In this tool, with this tool, I will have several of those that I'll pull together and list here and make available to you so that you can take a look at how you can use tool number 3 to quickly understand the nature of these hybrids, where they fit, where they're adapted, how they respond, and how well they would be expected to perform for you. And I think you'll find a lot of excitement and buzz and learning opportunity with this tool specifically. And hopefully, as time goes on, we get better and better at pulling in more and more data and being able to develop a tool like this for more and more hybrids. But enjoy. If you're overwhelmed or at any level confused and need clarification, please send me an email, give me a call, and I would be more than happy to walk through it. As I mentioned, this tool is probably the most powerful and valuable one if you know how to use it. And if you don't, please give me a call. I'll help you through. So with that, I bid you well. I'll let you go. And again, thank you for your time. We'll catch you down the road.